think the hour will fly by. So let me know. There's several ways you can participate. You can send it into the chat. I love it even more if you come on with your microphone and your camera and just ask your question. You can even do that in Portuguese because Daniela is giving me a wonderful live translation as well. So feel free. Is there anybody who signed up and already has a clear objective of what they want to learn tonight? Kijk, there's a first question. Jose Marcus, thank you very much for opening the ball. By the way, this is part of emceeing and moderating, allowing the delay, both in the internet connectivity, but also the delay in your participants' heads who were surprised by the fact that they have to submit questions. Take the time in, let the silence sit, and there they are. So, Vanessa, shall I just read them off the chat myself? Do you want to select and pitch questions to me? How do we run this?
Eu vou falando em português para todo mundo escutar, Gerrit, e as meninas traduzem para você. Aí facilita o canal da tradução. E eu vou escolhendo e passando para você. Right. Tem uma outra pergunta do Anderson. Oi?
Yeah, I see that. So I'll start with Jose's question in English and kick it off, and we take it from there. We take Anderson's question second, and more questions will develop. Okay. So Jose reads in the chat. I hope everyone is familiar in Zoom and found the chat button and is able to push that up. In the chat, it reads, what is the main difference between moderating and hosting an online event? And I think that's a beautiful question to kick off. The first answer to that, if we unravel that, is first, a lot of it is the same or similar. But obviously the main difference is there is no live audience with you. So there is not that typical live interaction, and it doesn't even have to be the verbal interaction, but we all know, we are all event professionals, that live events have a certain energy. They have a buzz. You feel when people come together in a physical place, they have expectations, they get excited, they laugh, they get frustrated. And that is everything you work with when you're moderating on stage. Now, that whole line is kind of cut once you step in front of a camera. Like tonight, I'm here all by myself in the Netherlands. You are all far away across an ocean. However, there's still a lot the same. First of all, we all turned up. We're all here in the same place, which is now a virtual place, this specific Zoom meeting. We are here at the same time, 5 o'clock Brazil time, and we still have a lot of expectations. The difference now is that I need to take that as a starting point and use some artificial tooling to get that momentum going. And the key thing for me as a moderator or MC, both on stage but also in an online event, is make it matter that the audience is there. Even though when I look at the count, there's 63 of you, you are all by yourself. We have a one-on-one conversation right now. So I should connect with you in a singular tense, in a one-on-one conversation. That's one of the changes. You're not a big room. You're not a big audience. It's not all of you together. You and I are having a virtual coffee now, only I'm having that 63 times. That's the first thing. The other thing is that to make it matter that people are there, interactivity is even more important than it is in a physical event. So I often like to start online events with either a poll. This could even be a poll you run like 10 minutes already before the official starting time, like 10 to 5, where you do a thing, for example, you questionnaire the audience of where they're from, why they decided to sign up, what type of professional backgrounds they have. So in the first few minutes, you can already use that to kind of show, hey, you might feel like you're alone because it's you alone behind your telephone or your computer, but we're actually with a group. And look, this is what the group looks like. We're from all different places. We're from all different backgrounds. And in that way, the essence is to create togetherness feeling as it's not so obvious. Let's start with that as a starting point for a first answer to the question. If you want to go deeper, let's go deeper into several. And I see more questions rolling in, so thank you for that. Vanessa, if you want to help me with reading out Anderson's Amori Silva question, then we'll take that next.
Sim, tem uma interessante, que é o Anderson que eu ia te falar. Qual é a comunicação adequada da frieza virtual sem a energia do público? Você já falou um pouco sobre isso. Como cuidar da comunicação não verbal, da artificialidade do meu home studio ou do cenário que eu vou criar? Como passar isso para as pessoas?
Yeah. Two things to answer that. It's a great question. It's one of the most difficult things. The first tip is actually making it harder. And the second tip then hopefully makes it come back a little bit to you. The thing that makes it harder but makes you connect more is actually to really force yourself to look into your camera. As we're all sitting in this home setup, bigger or small, whether you're on a laptop with a small black dot or it's a phone, or in my case I have a broadcast camera in front of me, but it's all the same. It's a little black dot, and that is where you are. But that is very counterintuitive, because what I would like to do is actually look at you on my screen. I placed my screen as close as I could to the camera, and for me now I'm looking at you and now I'm talking to you. But to you, at this moment, I'm actually looking underneath you. You're like, who's he talking to? This is not me. So first tip, if you're ever in an emceeing or presenting mode online, very awkward, even more difficult. But instead of looking at your audience, try to really make eye contact with that webcam. So at least you come out hopefully a little bit more personal on the other side. So then how does it become easier? I'm not saying it's easy, but how do you get back into that connection? And that is about, you really have to imagine your audience. So think about a person. In this case, I can see some of you. Every now and then I look down, and then when I'm talking and delivering to my camera, I'm actually thinking that I'm talking to Giovanna or to Air or to Alexa, but I'm kind of making that connection. And other than that, this is one of the key problems of online emceeing and presenting. It is colder, there is less connection. However, to finish this off and to see if we can put a smile on our face, there are a few fun things you can do. For example, have you ever heard about the virtual beach ball? Who's ever done a virtual beach ball? Okay, for those in the audience who have their cameras on, you're going to participate in this, because right now, let me pick it up. Here's my virtual beach ball. And at the count of 3, I'm going to throw it all the way across the ocean to all of you. It's going to multiply into 26 beach balls.
Yeah.
For those holding your phones, it might be difficult. But for all of you on a laptop, please catch the virtual beach ball. Right? Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, catch. Look at that. We just multiplied the beach ball into 25 beach balls at least. Oh, don't drop it. Don't drop it. Hold it. Hold it. Because now we're going to throw it around Brazil one more time. So hold your beach ball. On the count of 3, we're going to throw them up in the air, and you decide whose ball you're going to catch. In 3, 2, 1, throw. And don't forget to catch. Catch it. There you go. There you go. All right. Already, I see some smiles. I see some stuff happening. And this is what it is, right? So yes, technology is in between us. There's an internet cable, there's screens, but we're all human, and you can play with that. Let's get into people's minds and see if we can trigger some smiles that quickly create some connectivity. So great job on the beach balls. Well done. All right. Vanessa, give me another question.
Qual é a diferença? Essa pergunta eu gostei muito. Qual é a diferença entre o mestre de cerimônias e o moderador online? Existe diferença?
Yes. Let me quickly think. Yes, there are differences. The most important difference is that an online audience is very different from a physical audience for 2 main reasons. An online audience can, like we see happen in this meeting, at any moment, at any click of a single finger, get out of your meeting room. whether they're bored, annoyed, distracted, whatever the reason is, they can be off by a switch and they're not going to get back. While when you're in a physical meeting, you have the luxury that if you're boring or your meeting takes too long, they're going to switch off as well. They have this little thing and it has their office in the pocket and their social media, they're gone. But at least they're a physical captive audience. So maybe if you have some better content later, they'll come back. Online, obviously, they're gone by a second. That means that by design, you have to create a much more sticky experience that people want to watch. You can do that in your content because your content is great, because you create little cliffhangers and hooks of like, stay tuned because in 20 minutes we're going to do that, or now there's a break, create some expectations. That's on the one side. And on the other side, and then we're back to the first point, that is the interactivity. And that is also how your online audience is much different from your physical audience. You all, at the moment, have your fingertips at a keyboard. At any point, you can start interrupting in the chat. You can do stuff. In this case, you can even open up your microphone, start shouting if you want. So your possibilities as an audience to both positively and negatively interact are much larger. And as an online MC or moderator, you need to play or manage that tool, and it's a powerful tool. And if you do that well, that is actually what's going to make the experience sticky. And let me start by saying that tonight we might miss some opportunities on that, but I think you're doing great. I see questions coming in. I see a lot of you keeping the camera on and staying engaged. So well done for that.
Mais uma pergunta da Alexa. Ela gostaria de saber se na Europa moderador é uma função formal ou se é uma atividade para freelancer e quais competências precisa ter para ser um bom profissional e colaborar para que o evento online tenha sucesso.
Yeah, good question. I think, let me speak for the Netherlands. This is not an official title. There is no official training. Personally, I have a background in engineering, then spent a few years on stage as a keynote speaker on the topic of online marketing, social media. At some point, I figured I'm kind of done with the topic. I'm done talking about it. Am I now going to talk about something else, or am I gonna redefine my role? And that's when I decided I want to be on stage. I want to be with the crowd. So that's when there's courses, there's trainings, there's people who are training the trade. I follow the course, and then it's just practice, practice, practice. Obviously, that is one way to do it. We have people, professional TV hosts and journalists who take this role, who might bring some fame to your event. One heads up. I think there's a mic open. I'll let Vanessa manage that. One of the warnings that I've seen with people who have a lot of experience in broadcasting television is that they are really good on camera. They know how to handle the camera. They know how to host well. They can bring the content together. What is new to them is that what I explained earlier, that in an online event, the relationship is singular. So it's a one-on-one between me and you on the other side, and it's not a few 100,000 of you, even though you might be with a few 100,000. And I've seen that is a very subtle thing that they sometimes might find more difficult, and that what really makes a good online moderator, I think, if you are really able to make that connection with the persons, whether it's via chat, via the camera, via the content. And by the way, that is one of the lessons, like Vanessa and I are, and both Vanessas, I guess, are doing tonight. I cannot do all these things at the same time, because especially if the group becomes larger, like it's a 60+ group, I cannot at the same time keep track of what's happening in the chat. First of all, because I lose my eyesight with you, and I lose track of what I'm saying. So what we often work is in teams. So we have an on-camera moderator, MC, who's kind of the anchor man or women. That is the key host. That is the person that needs to keep that participant stuck to the screen. And then on the side, like tonight, we have a chat moderator or a social media moderator. And sometimes we also work, like I guess tonight with Vanessa, we work as a duo, where the one says, so Vanessa, what's going on in the chat right now? And then we take the next interactivity bit. So I hope that answers your question a bit. But so there's no formal education and there's no formal trade as far as I'm aware of. Yeah.
Obrigada, Gerrit. Tem uma outra pergunta da Camila, que ela gostaria de saber se profissionais com experiência anterior com programas de TV ao vivo são mais capacitados para o trabalho de MC online ou não?
Yeah, good question. I guess probably the question and the answer just crossed already. It's one of the things you need to manage. But in brief, so yes, they are ready on multiple aspects of the job. For example, being comfortable with the camera, being comfortable with the fact that you don't have live feedback from your audience. They're all used to that. Most of them are also very good as a journalist or as a reporter, as an interviewer. So that is all skills. That is perfect. But like I just said, and now I'm repeating myself, what is often new to them and that they're unfamiliar with and struggling with is that one-on-one relationship and the extreme level of interactivity that you could get in an online meeting, which makes it so much fun for the participants, right? Yeah.
Uhum. Tem mais um interessante do Oliver. Ele está dizendo, sou mestre de cerimônia no Superior Tribunal da Justiça em Brasília há 28 anos e tenho conduzido vários eventos online onde apenas utilizo a minha voz. Tem sido uma experiência bastante produtiva e o foco não é a minha imagem, mas sim a minha voz e a mensagem que tenho que passar para conduzir o evento. Que dicas você poderia me dar para que pudesse aperfeiçoar meu desempenho dentro dessa nova normalidade, que são os eventos híbridos, né?
So I hear maybe we need to deepen this question a bit, because if I understand the translation correctly, it says you are doing online events with your voice and everybody's very happy and it's going very well. Well, if it's going very well, what's there to fix? So maybe if you can make your question a little bit more specific, turn on your mic if you can. Let's hear that voice. Let's see why that voice is doing so well.
Okay. I work with MC at the Superior Tribunal de Justiça and I want to know...
Oliver, seu microfone está mudo ainda, eu acho.
Oh.
No, I hear him. He goes well.
Ele está no inglês, Van. Ele está no inglês.
Ok, você tem que mudar para o português.
Ok, yeah.
Oh, Deus, aonde está isso? Vamos fazer o seguinte, eu só queria algumas dicas de como poderia fazer, porque eu estou procurando aqui e realmente eu não estou encontrando. Então, você só fala para ele, eu queria algumas dicas de como atuar como MC nesse novo normal. Basicamente é isso. Não sei se
as meninas traduzem. As meninas vão traduzir.
Ok, thank you.
Obrigada, Oliver.
Yeah, in general, but yeah, so what I'm struggling with is we can only talk about improvement if we know where the problem is, right? But in general, the first thing I think when you say this, when you say I do a lot of voice-based stuff and it's going very well, and you ask me what can I do in this new normal, I think the key, and it's kind of beside the topic but adjacent, go into podcasting, right? The on-demand audio platform that is fully driven by voice, that's very strong to build up a little community. So it's not answering your question about how to improve your emceeing. It's probably in the line of think about how you interview. Okay, let me give you a general tip. The best tip that works for everyone in the audience. If you really want to improve, don't be shy to look and listen back at what you've done. Maybe that is a tip that helps you, because we all know, oh yeah, I've done this. Oh, I don't want to look at myself. I can't hear my voice, all that stuff. Okay, step over that. If you really want to grow and learn, put yourself aside, look at what you're doing, make notes, look at what you're doing well, and then immediately you see how you can learn and go. I think that could be the most general tip then that is applicable to everyone. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Uhum. Eu acho que sim. Mais uma pergunta, nesse caso da Maíra. Você acha que os eventos online vão permanecer fortes depois da pandemia?
Yeah. let's broaden this up. I see now as the co-host, I have the option to, oh no, I cannot do that live here. Ah, that's a pity. Vanessa, we should do this as a live poll because obviously I want to know among the audience if you think, because I can tell you what I think. So that is one of the first tips as an MC or as a program designer. Whenever, because this is kind of a debating question, right? Do we think that online events will remain big after the pandemic? And you could argue yes, and you could argue no. I'll tell you what I have in a second. Oh, here's a cliffhanger, right? Make it sticky. But one of the general tips is if you have these kind of questions, and for example, you have a panel with a debate, what I always love to do, instead of just go to the panel, involve the audience. So use the polling option. In this case, Zoom has a polling option, or whatever platform you're on, all of them have a polling option. And first, let your audience decide what they think, whether online events will remain strong after the pandemic. Because if your audience has the time to think about that, for example, you are doing that now, even without the poll, because I'm making a rhetorical question out of it, and I'm making you think. You take position. Either you've now already decided, either it's a yes or a no, or an it depends. And that makes you much more susceptible and a much better listener now that I'm going to provide my answer, because immediately you're going to either agree or disagree with me, and that makes you engaged more. So think about the question for a second. What do you think? Do you think online events will remain big after the pandemic? 3, 2, 1. And now I'll share my answer. I say yes. I think it will be huge. It will never go away for multiple reasons. Because let's face it, we launched our company around 2009 initially, but the whole hybrid events and the online events got big already in 2012, 2013, 2014, where Vanessa and I met. This was already huge. But at the time, it was mainly technology driven, right? It was a bit of a gadget. Bandwidth opened up, cameras got better, and we could live stream, and we could start to play of how to involve online audience. But at the time, there was, and actually for the last years up until February, March this year, there wasn't a real business model, right? Because we had to sell it on, you reach a larger audience if you go online. Yeah, okay, fine, but I'm getting paid by how many people I get in my venue, so I don't care about an online audience. You create better education and more interactivity because all your educational content is recorded. You can make it more interactive, and you say, well, yeah, but I'm just getting paid by how many tickets I sell, so I don't care about better education. You could play the sustainability card. It's much more sustainable. I'm not saying I'm against live events, but if you have a part that travels to a venue locally, and you have different regions that connect virtually, and maybe you have a traveling event that goes to different regions every year, and the one time you go physically and the next time you go virtual. So yes, many, many reasons why, beyond the safety argument, because I think that's going to play out for a while, right? The health safety argument, but also the, I'm not allowed for my company to be in large crowds. That's going to last much longer than a few months than we think. So first, online events are going to be used in the pandemic. As we've all experienced in the last few months, we're going to learn and discover that there's definitely great opportunities to do with online events. And then it's just going to be normal side by side. So yes, we will still have physical meetings, probably smaller. And then we involve online audience as well. That's what I think. But you just made an answer to that question yourself. So let me know if you think differently.
Gerrit, a Raquel pergunta que o MC participa e auxilia na preparação do roteiro do evento? Ele tem voz ativa nisso? Deve ter voz ativa nisso?
If it's a good MC and you're a smart meeting planner, then yes, involve them as early as you can for 2 reasons. Well, and this is a bit personal. I don't know if I can extrapolate this to all the MCs and moderators that walk around in Brazil or around the globe. But at least for me, the earlier and the more I understand and know about the content of your event, the better I can host it. I need to understand your audience. I need to understand the key question that your event is going to answer for them. I need to understand of each, whether it's a speaker or a panel or a video, what that specific segment of the program is going to answer for that audience and how it all interacts. Because that allows me, to create a red line, so to speak, through the content of your event. And if I see and understand the red line, for me, it's very easy to transfer that red line to the audience, and then the audience can follow along. What often happens, if you allow me, or what happens with my clients is when we have this meeting and like way in advance, and I ask all these nasty questions. It's like, so why do you bring these people together? And the first answer might be, well, we do this every year, so I don't know. Okay, let's unravel. Who are they? What do they need? What keeps them awake at night? How can we help them? How do we want them to walk out of that online event? All those nasty questions that you know that come with event design. If you allow me to ask them and to have that conversation, it helps both me and you. The other thing is that obviously experienced MC and moderators are not only working at or for your event, but they work, I work at 2, 3, or 4 events a week. So I see a lot more opportunities. I see platforms, I see formats, I see stories. So from that perspective, I or one of my colleagues can also share all that experience with you and make your script, program, plan much better also. So yes, the short answer is yes, involve them as early as you can.
Perfeito. Uma outra pergunta interessante, essa é um pouco capciosa da Camila, mas muito boa. O que você acha de empresas que colocam o diretor ou o gerente da própria empresa para ser MC do evento digital? Essa prática pode ser arriscada para o bom funcionamento do evento?
So shall we do an audience poll again? Let's do at least with the folks who have their cameras on. Let's raise your hands if you think this is tricky or risky. Who thinks putting the director as the main anchorman is tricky? Yeah, right. A few of you. Okay, glad. I'll try to put some words, and this is funny. I literally had this conversation today with a client because I understand why it happens. It happens for 2 reasons. A legit reason and maybe a little bit less legit reason. The legit reason is this is your organization, this is your audience, your community. However, is going an outside MC or moderator who doesn't know us, who doesn't know me, how is he ever going to host and anchor the event? It's impossible. And there is a fair point to that. The less legit argument is obviously an ego thing also, right? I want to shine on stage. The solution, what I often propose, is to work as a duo. So have an MC or moderator who is responsible for the process, for the technology, for the flow, for explaining the interaction, for taking the questions for launching the polls, whatever, and make sure, and in the end, because if we go back, why does the director want this? Part of it is ego. So his or her worst nightmare is that they are hosting the online event and they're going to make a fool out of themselves because they don't know where to look. They don't know what's going to happen. Their sound's not working. I don't know, everything that can go wrong in an online event. So if you can sell it to them, like we have someone who's very experienced with this, obviously you need to build trust and relationship that this is someone who actually will learn your crowd and will learn your organization, will learn your topic, then you have this clear division about someone who's managing the venue and the crowd and the interactivity, and your director who is the owner of the event, who opens the event, who does the official welcome, who introduces the speakers, and can be everything he or she wants to be in that only event. That is my favorite solution for that. It's not always possible, but that is the ideal world.
Tem uma outra pergunta que eu não sei resposta, eu tenho certeza que você vai conseguir colocar. Cadê aqui? A Daisy pergunta, como você percebe o mercado de mulheres MC online? Como já é difícil presencialmente, como é no virtual?
Yeah. No, I'm thinking in it. No, okay. Yeah, this is an issue, and it's good. It's a topic, and it's great. I don't see the name, but thanks for raising the question because I think that's the only way we can do this. The problem is I am a man. I can't cut it off. I am white. I am middle-aged. So yeah, I can't help it. I love what I do. But I'm definitely willing and sharing my knowledge and training other professionals if they want. So for now, I think the only thing we can do is keep raising that question that we don't want all male stages, and we don't want more that we do want more diversity in that. The difficulty is, and I'm now very open and honest with you, and maybe someone has an advice for me. Personally, I support the cause and I want to be part of it, but I find it very difficult if a client hires me because of our experience together, of my knowledge of the industry or whatever, because they like what I do. And I come there and I see it's an all male, all white lineup. Do I now, in fact, have to turn down the job and tell them, go get a woman MC or moderator? To be honest, I've never done that. And with that, I guess I'm still part of the problem. But that is all I can say about that for now. Yeah. It's good the topic is raised.
Uhum. Tem um comentário, na verdade, do José Marques, que eu achei interessante, que eu gostaria que você comentasse. Cada MC tem um estilo diferente que também deve ser considerado. Não adianta colocar um roteiro sério com um jornalista ou um roteiro sério se o MC tem uma linha mais de comédia. Qual é a referência que você indica? O que observar nessa escolha?
Exactly, I guess what Jose is doing. And that means thinking about what is the meaning, what is the context, what is the audience, what is the purpose of my event, and which style does best fit with that. Do I need formal? Do I need energy? Do I need young? Do I need old? So I guess as a broader scope, using the choice of the style of moderator or MC as a design element, that is exactly the answer. Be considerate if you can. Yeah. And well, let me add something practical to that. See if you can always see some reference material of someone. Even in my case, I've been, as a speaker, it was even worse. Dear event planners, why do you just hire speakers and put them on your stage without asking them what they're going to tell, showing you the slides, introducing, but also even as a moderator, you get books. I hope they've seen me work. Let me flip it around. If they see me work, it's always a much easier work together. So if you are selecting MCs or moderators, especially for an online event, everything is recorded. So just ask for reference material and check it out. Look at it.
É uma excelente dica. Concordo integralmente com isso. Melhor referência é impossível de ver ele agindo na tela para poder colocar. Nós temos algumas enquetes que eu gostaria de pedir sua permissão para a gente colocar. Robson, você pode colocar uma das enquetes para a gente? E aí eu pediria para vocês validarem a sua opinião, que está diretamente relacionada com esse assunto aqui. Nós queríamos saber de vocês qual é a importância do moderador online para o sucesso do evento. Ou seja, vocês indicarem para a gente, o Robson vai colocar a enquete, e para a gente ter uma noção do que vocês acham, a importância que tem esse profissional para o sucesso do evento, pelas respostas, perguntas, na verdade, também comentários que nós vimos, é um profissional importantíssimo. Mas vamos ver a opinião de todo mundo. Robson, coloca a enquete?
Já coloquei a enquete, ela está no ar com 71% das pessoas já votaram. Eu vou finalizar para mostrar para vocês.
Ok.
Aí está.
Não, a gente não está vendo, só está vendo você.
86% disse que é muito importante, 9% importante, 5% média importância. E ninguém disse que tem pouca importância.
Ótimo.
Os participantes estão vendo, Vanessa.
Eu não estou vendo.
Eu vou ver que...
That is true. We as a host and co-host cannot see the result, but everybody else can.
Que coisa estranha. Eu não estou vendo, só estou vendo todo mundo. É muito... A tecnologia realmente tem sempre um jeito de, às vezes, nos driblar, né? E como a gente está falando só para profissionais...
This is a great opportunity. First of all, Vanessa, as a MC moderator of this event, this is happening. Two things. I've had this myself. So I often use Slido. Slido has the option to do a word cloud. But if you don't have your setup right, you ask for a word cloud. Everybody sees the word cloud, but I only see the list of words. It happens, right? Own it. Explain to the audience what is happening, get them involved, and fix it on the spot. You'll be fine. Don't fake anything, right? Yeah.
Mais um poll agora, se você já realizou ou participou de eventos digitais.
That would be weird if anybody would be asking.
A gente está falando de profissionais de eventos, né? Então, eu tenho certeza que esse resultado vai ser...
O massacre da Serra Elétrica.
O massacre da Serra Elétrica. Boa.
Realmente 98% sim, 2% não. Vamos para a próxima?
Ainda tem gente que está começando, né?
Uhum.
Gerrit, tem mais uma pergunta bem legal, porque, na verdade, é uma pergunta que bem complexa.
I see some great questions. Let's do some more questions. I love them. Yeah.
Ok. Como manter os participantes online ativos e presentes durante um evento híbrido de duração de 3 horas, onde a audiência offline vai também estar participando de um coquetel, de uma premiação e assistindo a palestra? Como é que pode manter os participantes online conectados no evento por tanto tempo sem um entretenimento direto? Ou seja, como consegue? Qual é a função do moderador para isso?
Wait, I'm not sure if some of that got lost in translation, but let me summarize the question being, how can we keep an audience engaged for 3 hours or 3 days, which we've done as well? A couple of things to consider. First of all, you need to start thinking, when you design your script or your program, start thinking like you are making TV as a starting point. You're not making TV, but as a starting point. If you look at how TV channels keep the audience engaged, they have much shorter formats. If they have longer formats, they break it up, whether it's with bumpers or visuals or with a segment or anything else. So you make a faster rhythm to your content. If your content is scientific speakers, still you don't have to ask a speaker who would normally do a 30-minute or a 45-minute presentation to do a 10-minute presentation, because, I mean, the shortness is not saint, it's not holy, because if you make things shorter, they also get more shallow. However, what you would need to do, for example, we had online events where we had a scientist for 45 minutes, but we had a pre-meeting with him, and we were able to convince him to chop up his presentation into 3 15-minute pieces. And then after each piece, me as a moderator, and I had a co-host from the organization, as we explained before, we would briefly reflect. Say, okay, so what have you just learned? How do you translate that into practice? We would involve the audience in that, in doing that. We would launch a little a poll that would segue into the second piece of his presentation. So now all of a sudden we still have a scientific presentation of 45 minutes with deep, significant scientific content, yet we created a format out of it which was much more easily consumable in an online content. So that is one example. So think as a TV maker, but then 2, add the interactivity to it. 3, if you're going for really long, no, 3, I'll get to the breaks in a second. Third thing is, keep in mind that where in a physical, actually, I'm losing my thoughts because I get so excited about this time thing. It is always the same question. Why do we never ask the question, how do we dare in a physical event to put our audience in chairs for 6 or 8 hours in a full day, right? We never worry, and we give them presentations for 60 minutes. Well, why? Well, because they're stuck in their chair. They're not stuck in the chair, they go in the mobile. But anyway, so you should never do that in your physical events either if you come back. Make those interactive and entertaining as well. The main difference between your online audience, like you are right now, and your physical audience is that if your online audience feels that it's taking too long, or that they're not exactly interested, or they're distracted, or they need to pee, or they want a fresh coffee, they are in the luxury that they can go and get it anytime they want. So you don't need to worry that much about keeping it short, because if they need something, they go get it. That's another thing. Third thing to keep in mind, in online events, like we said tonight, we think, or at least Vanessa and Robson and I think, we are having an event from 5 to 6. But in fact, we've seen people coming in as late as 20 minutes past 5, and we probably already saw some people leave. So also be aware that your audience is much more fluent in your event. Some might come late, some might come early. One of the things that means as an MC or moderator is that every time you come back on, you briefly need to reintroduce where we are, right? With a little sense like, for those of you who are just joining, we are currently answering questions with Gerrit Heijkoop from the Netherlands about online MCing, and we are now working on the question of so and so and so. So keep in mind as a moderator that people are arriving late and leaving early. And then the last bit is, and that's where I'm getting to, if you're going far beyond the 3 hours, I've done online events for 8 hours, 2 days in a row, you go pretty similar to what you do in physical events. You create breaks, however, sticky breaks. You don't put your screen on black, but you put music in, a live artist or a comedian or a game or whatever. So, I mean, the television never goes on black. They have something. You can work with pre-recorded videos. You can work with anything, but at least you can say, okay, we now have a lighter break, or we have an online networking tool where you can go in and chat and play or whatever. Or if you want, go make lunch for yourself. Make sure you're back at 1 p.m., something like that. And that is a very long answer to say, just start with your audience in mind and create something that you would like to participate in yourself. That is the short answer. Can we do?
Ótimo.
I saw a question, as I admitted to you. I understand a little bit Portuguese. I saw this question, which I really liked, when I mentioned something about make sure you ask for references. Where is it? I saw someone asking, how can I build a portfolio if this market is so new? And I think I have a nice. Oh, here from Anderson Silva. Did I understand that correctly in Português? Como criar portfolio em mercado é novo? I think that is novo. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, so the answer to that is, you at the moment you are probably experiencing one of the worst times in your professional careers. At the same time, it's one of the most beautiful times of your careers, because you probably don't have work. And that means if you have a little money to pay this month's rent, you have time. And if you're really unlucky, you have a lot of time. And with that time, now is the time to invest and go create stuff. Go try stuff. Go create your own productions. If it's podcasting, figure out how to set up a podcast, record something. It's going to suck. It's going to be horrible. But you need that. You need those first learnings to get to a point where it becomes acceptable, after you took my earlier tip of looking at it and thinking, oh, I do it better. So back to the very concrete question from Anderson, how do I create a portfolio? Your portfolio in the beginning should consist of stuff you do for free. Do it for charities, do it for friends, do it for whatever. Start doing projects because you want to learn as a motive. To be honest, to close the circle, the fact that I'm talking with you here tonight is because Vanessa and I met at Fresh 2014 in Copenhagen, which was a project I did with Maarten van Nest for free. It was a personal development project. There was no work involved. We were able to experiment with formats to learn a lot. And that is actually the basis, the foundation of where I'm making a living off today. So if you want to start with that first step, right? It's a classic. Every journey starts with the first step. Make it now.
Ótimo. Obrigada, Gerrit. O Anderson mesmo fez uma pergunta que eu acho relevante também. O MC precisa investir em equipamentos de ponta para trabalhar? Ou seja, talvez uma segunda tela. Que equipamentos você recomenda?
Yes and no. So you want a short answer? Short answer is yes. If you want to be a professional online moderator, you need to have professional equipment. It's worth the money, and you should definitely have a second screen. You should invest in a little bit of lighting. You should be smart with it. Invest in a little backdrop. Invest in a proper microphone. All that stuff. The reason I say no is because maybe this is not applicable to all of you, but maybe some of you recognize this. To me, if I want to learn something new, whether it's online emceeing, whether it's building websites, whether it's triathlon, which I picked up a few years ago, and it involves equipment, the first thing I'm going to lose a ton of time and money with is do a lot of research in all the equipment, buy a lot of equipment, which I then think that I'm doing well because I'm learning. But that's not true. I'm just wasting a lot of time and money, because in the end, the skill is not the equipment. If you are able to captivate an audience through the lens, you can practice that with your phone. And so the short answer is start hosting things on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Insta Lives, even better. Go on Instagram, start an Insta Live story because nobody's watching. And even if they are, then it's fun. And after you're done, the recording doesn't live anywhere. So that's a fair place to practice. Because things you need to practice as an online MC is, for example, that feeling, maybe those of you who have experienced, that you're always live, right? So there is no place to go start to prepare something, go fix something, go do something. No, you are with your viewer. You need to keep your eyes on the camera and you're always on. There are points in your broadcast where you run into a point like, I don't know what to say or do now. Go there, go practice that kind of stuff. And for those kind of experiences, you don't need equipment. So that's why I say yes and no. So yes, ultimately you need to invest in equipment, but you can be a bad MC with the best equipment in the world and it's still going to suck. And you can be a captivating, super cool MC on a mobile phone on Insta Live. So that is the nuance there.
Excelente. Excelente, Gerrit. Nós estamos já no finzinho já da nossa 1 hora de webinars. Queria saber de você se você tem alguma conclusão para falar para o pessoal, suas últimas palavras e dicas para o pessoal aqui do Brasil.
Vanessa, depois tem uma pergunta do YouTube.
Sim, ok.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't have to go anywhere. Right now it's 11 p.m. at night. The next destination for me is my bed, so I can stay as long as you want. But I know you probably have other obligations as well. But so let me do a practical shout-out tip and then a more abstract. The practical one is something you might be able to reuse either for yourself, but also if you're briefing speakers or presenters that are gonna appear in your online events, and that is, if they worry about their technical setup, they should make sure they are always presenting with class. You already hear it coming. Class is an abbreviation. The C stands for camera. 2 tips on your camera. Make sure you level your camera to eye level. So in this case, use a shoebox, use boxes, whatever, to raise your laptop. So at least that you're looking straight at your audience and you're not looking down at them or they're looking up your nostrils. That's the first thing. Second tip I already shared earlier regarding the camera, make sure you look into it as much as you can. It's difficult, it's a kind of a pro tip, but that's the C. The L is for light. Obviously, you want to think a bit about being well lit. The first thing you should always make sure that people in your Zoom meetings or whatever are not with their back against a window or a bright light, because then you have the dark silhouette, doesn't work. We need light from the front. And I learned, here's the pro tip again, actually you need indirect light. So I have like these 3 little home lights, but in the beginning I had them facing me and I was like all lit off. Right now they're actually facing the white wall and ceiling in front of me, so I have the indirect bouncing light on me, and that creates a nice soft image. That's light. Audio, obviously, you want to have a proper mic. You want to have it tested. And I'm not afraid. As you see, I often recommend just go with the headphones because the microphone is often close. I can hear it well. There's no feedback. And I don't have a vanity issue with that. I'm standing here with the headphones on. I don't care. I know some people do, but it's technically sound. Pro tip, warning, careful with those people with the wireless earpods because they will guarantee you run out of battery during your live show. And then your speaker is gone. You don't hear him. The microphone is gone. Then obviously the first S is of setting. Make sure people are aware of their backdrop. In this case, I have literally a physical banner hanging here in a frame. It can be the bookshelves behind Vanessa, but make sure you know what kind of books are there. At least be conscious about what's behind you. I see quite some of you working with a virtual background. I have mixed feelings of those because first of all, they tend to cut off your ears. And secondly, they request a lot of resources from your computer, which I rather have being used for the internet connectivity instead for the live image rendering virtual backgrounds. But that is up to you. And then the final S, classes with two S's in the end, is obviously the starting time. Always make sure that you as a moderator MC, but also your speakers or anybody involved in your online event is at least 30 minutes before you go live, ready, technically checked, audio checked, image checked. And then they can go off, get water, go to the bathroom, whatever. But you want to see here at least 30 minutes before you go, because then you have some time to fix last minute internet issues. Zoom needs to update. I can't get into the meeting kind of stress. While if you let them run in 5 or 10 minutes before your meeting, it's not going to go well. So those are the last practical tips. And other than that, I think we hit on some unexpected notes that I want to underline. I mean, this might feel like the hardest time of your career, but be aware it's always also a huge, huge opportunity. Again, as long as you can make rent to the end of the month, you probably don't have work, so you have a lot of time. Use the opportunity now.
Uma pergunta, então, do YouTube, do Richard Clarenbox. Ele pergunta em relação a vendas, o processo de venda de um evento online. Uma dica em relação a como vender, eu estou crendo que é essa abordagem dele, de como vender o trabalho do MC para os organizadores de eventos.
Yeah, okay, so how to sell yourself as an MC. Again, my biggest source of projects, jobs, is the fact that people see me work. And then we come back to Anderson's first question. If you don't have any references or portfolio, go create it with free projects, with hobby projects, with charity projects, with voluntary projects within your company or organization where you say, hey, guy, I guess, yeah, no. So that's the answer to that. Make sure you start to make the flying hours and you create some reference material for yourself. First, only for yourself. So you look at it, you let some family look and listen to it. And then, or maybe not family, maybe a little bit further away, because the family is just going to say, oh, it's great, we love you. No, you need honest feedback on that. And then you get better.
Gerrit, a Cristiane colocou uma pergunta que você já respondeu uma parte, mas talvez você queira completar. Considerando as falhas, como aconteceu hoje aqui, né? Que acontecem no evento digital, como o moderador pode se preparar melhor para quando esses eventos imprevistos acontecem? Sei lá, vídeos, slides, qual é a sua dica para isso?
Yeah, in a couple of ways. First of all, and I think we all have that in our blood, be aware, as event planners, we know how to spot risks, right? Because this is no different in physical events. So keep doing that, and it might be a bit unfamiliar because the technology is unfamiliar, but by now you've seen it all. I mean, camera failing, microphones failing, internet failing, videos not starting, screens not sharing, we've seen it all. So first of all, first thing you need to do is make sure that you test properly. So with anyone I'm running an online event with, we do a pre-call in as much likely the same setup and ideally a similar timing of that. For example, if we're bringing in virtual speakers via Zoom, I want to do a Zoom at a similar time and a similar set where they are. I use the website speedtest.net to make them test their internet connectivity, so I know the bandwidth they're on. I have, for example, for Zoom, I have a couple of backup options, because those of you who've scheduled Zoom meetings, you can go in virtually like we are today, but you can also have a phone number ready. So I always send them the phone number, and in the briefing I say, well, if anything fails on the day, have this phone number ready. They only need the meeting idea. And then on my side as a producer, that is, by the way, this is a stupid chore, because I'm doing this for every event, and luckily so far, with knock on wood, I never needed it. But you need to have that visual ready, like on the TV news, right? When they're calling on the phone and you don't have visual, you need to make sure you can put in a little visual, like this is Gerrit on the phone tonight, right? So that is some preparatory work in case the connection fails. Quality, had the class I just shared, you've checked that in the pre-meeting. I've shared you start 30 minutes or maybe even 45 minutes prior. So you've seen them, you've checked all that. Then the more technology you're gonna use, the more plan Bs you need to have. For example, today we worked with polling. Rest assured that you're gonna run into instances where your polling is not going to work. Either it's not going to work from your end, or like Vanessa had, you're not going to see the results, or always members in your audience are not going to be able to participate somehow. It happens. Be ready for it. Have a chat moderator that says, we're very sorry, blah, 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 a custom, and so on and so on. Today we started with the QR code of scanning the mobile app. You know people are going to have issues with that. So have a plan B. If you're having issues with getting into the mobile app, this is where you go, blah, blah, blah. So I guess that is my tip. Like a real event planner, go through everything that goes wrong, make a plan B, practice, test, do dry runs. And I guess if I see anybody who's quite inexperienced with online events, I think those are the things they forget, right? They just say, oh, it's a Zoom meeting. It starts at 5. Let's connect 1 minute to 5, and here we go. Well, that's not how it's going to run, of course.
Ok. Gerrit, eu posso falar por mim. Amei sua participação, você aqui sempre muito simpático, com muita informação legal para o pessoal, assim, de coração, muito obrigada por você estar aqui com a gente, tá? Um enorme prazer. Se você ainda tem alguma palavra final para fazer, por favor, mas só posso agradecer muito você estar aqui com a gente hoje.
Yeah. Because well, it's my great pleasure, Vanessa, and thank you for all the audience members who saved me today with sending in the questions and making this thing actually fly. Because again, I didn't prepare. Another great tip as an MC moderator, you should always be aware that you and I might feel that we want to run for another 20 minutes, and I'm fine with that. There are people who need to go somewhere at 6, so we then officially make some kind of ending. Those who want to go should go, and I guess those who want to stay, I mean, I see still some questions coming in, so I'm fine staying, but I don't feel offended if you now wave and have to go and whatever. But let me know if you yeah, bye Sylvia. Let me know if you want any extra questions to be answered. I'm here to take a few more if you want.
Bom, eu vou só mostrar, então, o nosso calendário, e se vocês tiverem mais alguma pergunta, então, o Gerrit está se dispondo a responder mais alguma, podem escrever no chat. Eu só vou compartilhar a tela com vocês para mostrar os nossos próximos eventos, e aí a gente já volta para responder algumas perguntas com ele, tá? Então, me dá só um minuto que a gente já responde. Bom, nós temos aqui no projeto do ED2020, nós temos agora hoje a do Gerrit. Na semana que vem já começam mais uma turma das aulas do ED2020, tá? Quem ainda não fez, nós ofertamos agora as aulas de formato e design de eventos digitais já na segunda-feira. Vocês vão ver o link para inscrição aí já no chat. Logo no mesma semana, próxima terça-feira, a gente tem um outro webinar muito legal sobre comunidade e networking em eventos digitais, com a Carla Colonna e mais um convidado muito especial, tá? Ele é o diretor de vendas da Brain Date. Quem já escutou palestras minhas, já ouviu falar dessa plataforma canadense que é maravilhosa, ele vai estar com a gente aqui, ou seja, mais um convidado internacional muito legal para a gente no dia 25/8. Logo em seguida, nós temos no dia 27 a aula de plataformas tecnológicas, onde nós vamos mostrar para vocês como escolher as plataformas, como integrá-las, quais os tipos de integração existentes, ou seja, muito bacana também. E no dia 31 tem a última aula dessa próxima turma, que é como conseguir monetizar o evento digital, ou seja, como você consegue encontrar os itens comercializáveis, como você monta cotas e algumas dicas para você poder vender, tá? Então, ou seja, a programação está muito legal. Em setembro também tem mais muita coisa legal, a gente vai ter outras coisas que a gente vai mostrar para vocês, tá? Mas será um prazer ter com vocês de novo nesses novos eventos que a gente está montando para vocês por agora, tá? E voltando aqui agora para o nosso convidado. Aqui vocês estão as aulas, tá? Já no chat já estão indicando os links para inscrição nessas aulas. E nós também vamos colocar o link para o próximo webinar sobre comunidade e networking. Van, por favor, coloca para mim. Bom, Gerrit, alguns agradecimentos, né, foram em inglês, então você já viu que você tem um monte de fãs agora, além de mim, da Vanessa e do Robson, você já tem vários fãs brasileiros aqui, agradecendo todo esse trabalho incrível que você mostrou para a gente agora, e eu realmente tenho muito prazer de ter você aqui. Os comentários aqui, que a gente tem aqui são sinceros, viu? O brasileiro é muito sincero e ele fala mesmo tudo. Então, são muito bons e é o reflexo do teu trabalho, tá? Parabéns. Você gostaria de falar mais alguma coisa para esse público lindo que a gente tem? Nós ainda estamos com quase 50 pessoas aí, isso é muito legal.
Well, the only thing I realized that I've been lying on the right here, but there was no natural point to mention. Those of you who look me up on LinkedIn say that on stage I've been wearing red sneakers for over 10 years. Obviously, this is kind of getting lost as the online moderator now. But I actually brought my red Brazilian Havaianas with me. But even if I wore them, you couldn't have seen it. The other thing is I'm actually in shorts today, so that does work. But, no. Let me know. I think there's a pressing question from Bruna Pais, because he has copy-pasted it about an evento formal com temas jurídicos, right? I think that is a pressing question or not.
Deixa eu procurar aqui.
Tem uma pergunta aqui, Gerrit, sobre a sua superstição com tênis vermelho.
Robson tá mudo.
Ninguém... Não? Tá mudo?
Agora,
você não me ouve?
Okay. Agora sim.
A Raquel Fabrício diz que já segue o Gerrit no Instagram e viu que ele é o rei do tênis vermelho. E pergunta se é alguma superstição, já que a Havaianas também é vermelha.
Yeah. So the thing is, and I guess if you're a professional MC or moderator, whether it's online or offline, branding is obviously a thing, and I already started first, as I mentioned early in the introduction. If you missed that, I started my career also as a professional speaker. So I started to make my way on stage, and obviously the first pair of red sneakers was just because I liked them and they were very nice. But then I started to notice that they were very noticeable. People were looking at them. I found another red piece, and it kind of became my stage uniform, so to speak. By now, after 10 years, this is really a uniform. And I can tell you, I have about 12 red t-shirts, I have 8 white shirts, and I have 5 of these blue jackets, and I have about 28 red types of sneakers and chairs. And so, first of all, this is pragmatic. And I know as a woman, this might be more difficult, but as a man, I can just show up in the same garment always, and that works. The benefit to me is that it's this very strong branding thing, because I already noticed as a speaker, but also as an MC and a moderator, they don't remember my name, but they do remember the guy with the red sneakers. And especially in the earlier years, I kept being referred and recognized as, oh yeah, the guy with the red sneakers. So that is only after 5 or 6 years when I wrote my book And in the book, there was some kind of social media speaker who needed a name. So we named him Mr. Red Sneakers. That was when we went like, okay, let's go all in. So now on LinkedIn, on Instagram, everywhere, my tagline is just Mr. Red Sneakers. The only drawback is I really have to stick to the brand. I cannot wear anything else. I never forget, about 3-4 years ago, I kind of got into running and triathlon. I went to a store to buy my first running shoes, and I did this like little running test, and I said, well, you need these shoes. It's like, well, they need to be red. I said, well, they only come in blue, but they're really your running shoes. I was like, okay, health or brand. I was like, well, running is a private thing, right? So I bought the blue running shoes. You don't want to know the amount of hassle I got out of that, both privately as professionally or on Instagram. Everybody saw it. So right now I'm having red Havaianas, I have red running shoes, red cycling shoes, everything is red. Again, so the lesson here for you is think about something recognizable that you can use for your personal branding. It's a different topic, but definitely as an MC and moderator is very, very important.
Gerrit, eu já posso imaginar você chegando na loja de Havaianas, olhando aquele monte de tipos de Havaianas diferentes e olhando para a vendedora e perguntando, tem vermelha?
Exactly. Robson,
Gerrit,
the beauty is shoe shopping has never been so fun and easy, because all I see a shoe store, I already most often from outside can see whether they're reds or not, and then I only have to check whether I like them or not. The beautiful story about these is actually nicer, about being a strong personal brand. Someone who I met in university, which is more than 15 years ago, actually 2 years ago sent these to me via LinkedIn out of nowhere. It's like, oh, I love it, Mr. Red Sneakers. Do you already have red slippers? No? Okay, I send them to you. So this is actually a gift from some kind of random LinkedIn connection. So that's how strong a personal brand can be, I guess.
Muito legal.
Cool. Has nothing to do with moderating. Well, a little bit. Yeah.
Tem.
All right.
Tem. Gerrit, nós tivemos na plateia vários MCs profissionais, mas principalmente na área formal, na área de governo. E a Bruna, como você tinha pedido, ela também trabalha, e a pergunta em português dela foi: como ser uma MC em um evento formal, com temas jurídicos e ministros, sendo profissional, mas também pensando na plateia? Qual é a sua dica para ela?
Yeah. So in that case, let me first state, I don't think I have a lot of experience with it. I've worked with ministers and I've worked with high-placed people, even with some royalty. But you've also already noticed that my style is quite loose, flexible, and energetic. If you need a really formal MC, you're not going to call me. Let me try to be empathetic and think about what you would need to do in that place. The first thing I would need to do is, obviously, if you're in such a formal position, that is your starting point, right? Because that is a deal breaker. You cannot break any formal procedures or rules or designations or titles that you need to use. So let's start with, and you know that because you have that experience. So that is your baseline. However, I do think that even within that context, and this might now be very subtle, there might be opportunities where you let the audience feel that whether all the high priests and ministers and everybody in the room doesn't care that they are there, you know and are aware that there is an audience and that this whole procedure is going on for them. And it might have to resign all the way back to little by sentences or a look in the camera or whatever, because obviously you cannot break the formality and you cannot break the ranks. But I guess it is a very small place. But the key singular thing that you keep in mind, we're not doing this. That was already my rule when I was a speaker. I am not on stage as a speaker, but in this case, the judges or the ministers. It is not about them. Of course it is about them, but for the audience, it's not about them. It's about the audience experience. People tune into your online event or come to your venue because they want something, whether it is they want to see the court case or they want to learn about the new legislation or they just want to see Parliament talk, all fine. But somehow, so often, you see nobody think about the fact that people come up for them. And then if you can somehow make that connection and make them feel that you know that they are there for their stake. I know this isn't very practical, but that is all you can do, I think. I hope that helps, Bruna. I see you nodding a little bit, but it's tough. It's a tough environment to be the engaging, flexible MC moderator in that context. Yeah. But yeah, okay, this is beautiful. So I just had my 3 seconds of silence, which I sometimes need. Okay, so if you stay close to your official role, one of the ways you can make this practical, for example, is to never forget that you really clearly, explicitly explain why things happen, how they happen. So that means that you as an MC would never assume that the audience understands what is going on, that the audience understands who these high-placed people are because they're such a high-placed people. You as an MC moderator can always go stand in between them, pretend it's your mom or your aunt or whoever who just joins and watches that for the first time. And it's your job to never, even if you do it for the 10th time yourself, you're always going to go back then and explain and clearly explain the procedures, the expectations, the role of the audience. Because that is a way how you very practical make it matter that they're there, make them feel that they're taken seriously. I think that is the practical explanation of what I just said. Now you're not nodding, so I hope.
Muito legal, Gerrit. Eu posso escutar você por muito tempo mais ainda, mas é muito, porque já tá com...
Eu tenho que encerrar a transmissão.
Mas estamos já com quase 1h30. Robson, você quer mais alguma pergunta, mais alguma informação para eles, para a gente encerrar?
Não, só agradecendo a presença de todos, agradecendo as palavras do Gerrit, as dicas dele em relação a todos os tópicos. Ele foi realmente sensacional. Palavras que vêm de um MC experiente como ele realmente faz uma diferença muito grande, principalmente nessa lógica de ser um MC mais despojado. Mesmo trabalhando em projetos mais sérios, ele procura ter essa personalidade, ter o traço dele. Isso eu acho que é um aprendizado importante para a gente. A gente tenta muitos MCs cinzas, ou seja, ele não aparece muito e a gente meio que tenta ser transparente e adicionar nosso valor para o evento em si. O Gerrit faz isso, mas ele deixa a marca dele. E deixar essa marca, eu acho que é uma lição importante, talvez uma das mais importantes do Gerrit para todos os MCs que estão participando com a gente aqui hoje. Gerrit, muito obrigado e conte com a gente aqui no Brasil para mais projetos em conjunto com a gente, em parceria. Um abraço.
Gerrit,
let me extend. If any of you would have practical questions, if you're MCing, if you're moderating, I already said to Vanessa in the beginning, maybe somewhere we find a way to follow up and because I think in the end, if you really have a question and you're